All right, we're going to move to our next panel. I'm going to ask our moderator to come forward and the other panelists as well.
Everybody? Oh, okay. I've yet to meet the panelists, so Aaron, Justin, how are you?
It's a pleasure to meet you.
Kristen, all right, nice.
Should we sit anywhere?
Sure. Everybody, I see Christine's walking out there. She mentioned that she's 25-year Navy veteran spouse. I think that you undersold that. That's my wife. I remember 12 years ago, she was 7 months pregnant. I got deployed to Afghanistan. She had to stay home, no friends, no family, in a city that she didn't know about, and give birth to her first child. Spouses do a lot, so kudos to her. Good afternoon, I'm Justin Velez-Hagan. For those who have yet to meet, I'm a business owner, economist, and adjunct professor. Most important and relevant to today's conversation, I'm a veteran and board member of ALVA. I wanted to step back very quickly because I'm kind of surprised where ALVA's gone. When Danny Vargas, CEO, founder of ALVA, first approached me, he said, "Hey, Justin, I want to start a veteran support organization." I was like, "Cool, there's not one of those yet, so you know this ought to be amazing, right?" So I did poo-poo it at first, but he sold me on the concept of there being a niche available to support the Latino niche. He was right. There is a big niche, and we're filling the void as fast as possible, but it's still out there. There's still a lot of work to be done. There's still a lot of stories to tell about the contributions Latinos have made, at least from a service perspective. But the organization has grown pretty well over the years, so I'm excited to be here, and I'm increasingly proud of it. Big thanks, of course, continue to AT&T for its contribution. Thank you all. For always offering to support and host us here, and many other organizations as well. So we appreciate that Celeste and team. I'm especially excited to be here today moderating a panel on banking and finance careers, because looking back through my own work, whether as an owner of multiple businesses, investor in others, the executive director of the National Puerto Rican Chamber of Commerce, I mentioned as a professor of finance, or even recently as a public policy advisor, I've functionally worked in banking and finance pretty much my whole life. Didn't really know it before. Didn't know or realize or understand how important banking and finance was to anyone who worked in virtually any capacity of the business or corporate world. And to give you some examples, as a chamber leader, we directed more than $1 billion of investments to the island in Puerto Rico. That took some incredible knowledge of how investment works from not just a small perspective of a business owner looking to open a mom and pop shop on the corner of the bodega in Puerto Rico or everywhere, but to understand counterparty risks, large banking and institutional relationships that you needed to build, governmental institutions and how they integrate with your operations. All that is intricately important with that process. As a business owner, if you're not a professional expert in accounting, you better become one quick or you're not going to be successful. You got to know your books, you got to know your competitors' books, you got to know capital management, how to access capital, so you got to be a professional banker. And that, of course, as a professor in finance, I try to pass on the knowledge to my students that the theoretical you learn in your textbook is practically applicable to real life. These theories aren't just suitable to read. They can be useful in your real life. And that practical knowledge, sorry to say, is not so frequently passed along at the university level. Certainly not at the high school level, certainly not before that. So personal finance, banking, it's important to know, and I'm impressed by those who have entered the business. I mean, as a public policy advisor, I've found that certainly there's nothing more important and impactful to our economy than the banking and finance industry. So a career within banking and finance is guaranteed to be both meaningful and impactful, and if you're not in it yet, hopefully we can help you along the way. So I don't know about you, I'm pretty excited to have reps from two of the largest banks, not in the country, but in the world, here with us today. with about, I'll give you some numbers, I'm an economist, this is what I do, with about $6 trillion in assets between Wells Fargo and JPMorgan. That's trillion. I used to talk about trillion, wasn't even fathomable, but I guess that's even that's become a small number now. The 6 trillion, I guess to put it in perspective, that's about a quarter of our annual GDP. That's a huge number that your companies operate. I won't get into market caps and all that. I wrote down some numbers, but I think I'm getting a little too nerdy there. That's suffice it to say, they're behemoths to be reckoned with, and we have good representatives here. Funny enough, we're talking about job transition careers. I may be looking for a job soon too. So I'm going to talk to you. I have a business I developed over the last couple of years. It's actually going through an acquisition, and I don't know what to do with my life. So I'm listening. If no one else is, I'm here. So you can talk to me, and we'll work things out after this. The hope for the rest of you, we're gonna hand out jobs afterwards, like candy, right? So I'm excited to facilitate this meaningful exchange of ideas. I hope it is an exchange for anybody who has some questions. I do want to remind the panelists, I know that we're speaking to the crowd here, but just to make you a little bit more nervous, this is recorded for all of posterity. We've done the website and everything. Just to emphasize the importance of this is going to be disseminated a little bit further. So we're going to have a good opportunity to really impact a lot of people. So with that said, I'd like to introduce our distinguished panelists who will hopefully walk us through their journey a little bit, describe their roles within their respective orgs, and in the end, like I said, give us all jobs. I had your bios here. Since we've just met, I don't know a lot about either of you, so I thought I would toss it to you, let you introduce yourselves, maybe just say your name, position, and then we'll go through kind of your journey after that. And you ladies first, and start with Kristen there, if you don't mind, Aaron.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
So I'm Kristen Sullivan. I currently work for JPMorgan Chase on the JPMorgan side of the house. I served 7 years active duty in the U.S. Navy as a human resources officer, followed by 2 years in the reserves. Ultimately, I decided to get out. My husband is still active duty. We wanted to have children, and just got to the point where juggling 2 military careers was just a little bit difficult, and co-location was no longer an option. So I decided to make this switch. Ultimately, I'm very glad that I did. I loved my time in the service, but it was time to do something different. So I started by working towards and earning my master's in integrated marketing communications, which was the first step. Kind of bounced around a little bit trying to figure out what I was going to do. Ultimately landed a position within JPMorgan as part of their military pathways program, which I can speak to a little bit later on in the panel. But I've recently placed out of that program, and I'm currently sitting in a role within the client engagement events team. So essentially it's a fancy way of saying we host events for some of our top tier clients within the bank. And that's pretty much me in a nutshell.
Is it my turn? Sure. Well, I'm Aaron Miranda. I'm the military talent liaison for Wells Fargo, and I've been with Wells Fargo for a bit over 2 years, but I've been in talent positions, military transition services for over 18 years. From working in academia all the way to owning and operating my own recruitment firm, my own business. We gotta talk. Okay? So my job at Wells Fargo is actually really, really simple. My job is to help veterans and military spouses become our teammates. Okay, the way we do that is direct placement. We have over 30%, by the way. Direct placement or direct programs. Our programs can be everything from our corporate fellowship program, our Triple H program, our apprenticeship program, our vet program. We have a lot of programs. Okay? A little story about myself, a personal, my pathway. I joined the Army because soy Latino, okay, I'm one of 7, and my journey was figuring out how to pay for college, okay, so I decided to join the reserves. My abuelita, she raised me, she's like, Migo, you're on your own. So I took a job as a textile in the reserves. They're like, hey, you never get deployed. We went through the initial invasion, okay, so I was there 15 months, I'm like, I'm textile, what am I doing over here? So I came back, I was a little vengeful, went back to the University of Texas El Paso, and I said, I'm going to become a United States Army recruiter. I'm going to put some other people over there in the sandbox, okay? And from there, I left, after I left the military, I was a United States Army recruiter. I worked at a university, being a military education liaison, and then I worked for a little nonprofit. I don't know if you guys heard of this nonprofit called the Wounded Warrior Project, for the Warriors to Work program. Okay, we had a small team, we only had 12,000 wounded veterans, we grew up to over 100,000 veterans. So I understand the pain points of veterans coming back, looking for a job, going to school, trying to figure out what's the next step. It's something that I've been passionate about. Okay, and I grew up very passionate. When I started my recruitment firm, it was tailored civil engineering, okay, tower techs, and security cleared roles. Even trying to get out of the military space, I was still in the military space, helping veterans find careers, not jobs. Jobs and careers are two different things. A job is I can go to a corner store, get a job, be working the next day. A career is I'm going to go, I'm going to enjoy myself, and I'm going to be passionate about it. I'm going to wake up, I'm going to have some energy, and this is what I'm doing. So that's a little bit about me.
You both undersold yourselves, but I think it was a good background. I expected you to. You're humble servants from the beginning, so that's just out of your nature. Kristen, just as an example, I mean, you said you're in the Navy, but you're at the Naval Academy. Come on, that's a big deal.
I don't want to be a ring
Yeah,
number.
that's all right. That's right. Now, if you stood up and showed your ring to everybody,
I don't even know where my ring is.
Look
I
at
hate
it.
to say it. I think my dad has it.
It is an elite university. Very few people are able to get in there. I was rejected for the Air Force Academy, actually. So,
I'm really sorry about that.
It's okay. I'm not good.
He's over it.
And Aaron, you got an MBA yourself and a certificate from Columbia, so kudos. You know what you're talking about, probably too.
No, I didn't.
Awesome. See, humility is abundant.
Unless I capital.
But Aaron, I love your background because there's a term in recruiting, I guess, for talent acquisition that recruiters have told me, for instance, that I have a less than linear or a non-linear type of background. Where, on paper, it looks like I'm going from here to here to here, different industries, different jobs, different functions, because there's different businesses in different areas, and maybe it didn't make so much sense from a career type of background. But yours just looks like recruitment to recruitment to recruiting to chief
Career
talent.
services. Career services.
Career services. See, all of that's pretty much in line. And you kind of mentioned your background a little bit, but did you have an interest, or did you think you had an interest in that?
No, I did not.
You
Like,
fell into it.
I fell into it. I'll be quite honest with you. I thought I was going to go in sales and I didn't know what I wanted to do. Okay, when I was in college, and then once I heard about story. I was over here in Dallas for an AGR. I was an Army Reserve recruiter, and I didn't really want to become an Army recruiter. I was thinking about it, not 100% sure. I was thinking of something like a 9-2 Yankee, like working at supply, finish out my degree. When I was over here, I was in Dallas for the AGR forum, they're like, hey, no 92 Yankee positions are available. I was like, okay, I'm going to go home. I get a call from my wife. Honey, guess what? I'm pregnant. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to become a recruiter. I'm going to make sure we take care of you. So that's how I got into recruiting. I did it by accident, but ever since I've been in it, as you can tell, I've been in it for over 10 years. I love it.
But you mentioned the call from the wife. So once my wife was pregnant with her second, was my time to potentially re-enlist. She saw the writing on the wall for our unit to redeploy, and she kind of said, honey, no, how about not this time? You know, maybe I'd like if you were at home this time when I gave birth. So I rightfully complied. And Kristen, I think what was pretty interesting about you is how you took advantage of that path. What was it called? Military
Pathways program.
Could you? Obviously, I'm going to ask you about this.
I would love to talk about it.
Please talk it up. I want to know what it's about, how you participated, what your experience was. Is it applicable to anybody? Kind of your background.
Yeah, absolutely. So as I mentioned, I was I almost said current, but I literally just placed out about a month ago, not even, member of the Military Pathways program. And this is a unique rotational program at JPMorgan. They have others at other companies, I think. Amazon has one, Facebook has one, but the reason why I like this rotational program, the whole point is to help military veterans transition from a life and a career in the military over to the civilian side. And it's perfect for people like me who, when I got out of the service, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I just knew I wanted to do something different, right? So I was a human resources officer in the military, which anyone who had, did human resources in the military, it has nothing to do with human resources in the civilian world. It wasn't what I wanted to do, and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And that is what this program was created for, who this program was created for. It's for people who are transitioning to the civilian world, and they kind of want to explore the different options out there. I actually had a buddy tell me about this program when I first got out of the Navy. He was a part of the program, and I heard JPMorgan, And I was instantly like, no, I'm not interested. I have no desire to work at a bank. It sounds super boring, like you won't find me working there. Fast forward 3 years later, when I had, kind of bounced around to different jobs, trying to figure out what I wanted to do, and I was having a really hard time finding a job that valued the skills I had acquired in the military. So one of the biggest things that I kept hearing when I applied for jobs was, you've got 10 years of experience at, or 7 years of experience as a leader, in human resources, but you don't have any applicable service here. So I was applying for jobs in marketing, I got my master's, so I had that under my belt, but even still I didn't have the experience that they were looking for. So I was starting out in jobs with kids who had just graduated college. I knew that I was, far beyond what, the experience level of the roles that they were putting me in. It was really frustrating, and I had friends who were going through the same thing. Again, you've got great experience in leadership, you've got experience in the military, but you don't have the corporate experience that we're looking for. So I called up my friend Eric, and I said, okay, now I'm ready to listen. What is this program that you were trying to tell me about? And I'm so glad that I did, because it has been incredible. Essentially what it is a 2-year rotational program. And you really just get to pick whatever job you want within the firm. You do 1 year on a certain team. If you want to place out into a permanent role, you can. If not, you do a 2nd year and a different rotation. So my first rotation I did was in marketing. Obviously I had an interest in that, but I wasn't sure that's what I wanted to do long term. So my first role was as a marketing strategist. I was in the commercial bank, and I was working specifically with startups. So my clients were actually the bankers, and their clients were the actual clients. But I was working with the bankers to attract startups and small businesses to the firm. Because believe it or not, people hear JPMorgan and they don't really associate that with small business banking. So I had a really great time in that first rotation, but I really wanted to see what else was out there, and that's why I decided to do my 2nd rotation. So I just finished my 2nd rotation. Like I said, I am part of the client engagement events team. And our role is essentially hosting events or strategizing and executing events for some of our top tier clients. And it's incredibly fun. I love it. It's a great job. I'm glad that I found this. But that is why I love this program, because people hear JPMorgan, they hear banking, they hear finance, and yes, we do that obviously, but there's so much more to the bank, and this program really allows you to explore those different areas. I mean, you name it, we have it. We have an art history department. We have people who literally curate art from famous artists around the world and put them in our buildings around the world. We have a history department that maintains the history of JPMorgan and makes sure that our story is told to the world. I mean, we have pilots. If you're an aviator and you want to do that at JPMorgan, we have that too. So it's really a great program because it allows you to explore what else is out there, and it helps you make that transition where otherwise you might be struggling, like I did, to find a company that would value those skills that you acquired in the military. So.
Is JPMorgan hiring navigators? That's it. She mentioned pilots.
Probably. I don't know off the top of my head, but it wouldn't surprise me.
Maybe it does exist. I don't know. You mentioned, I was surprised to hear about your role at JPMorgan. I think everybody probably is that you speak with, but not so surprised. I noticed when I worked in Morgan Stanley, I don't know if you noticed Ian Oxman, it's a different bank, but he kind of does the same.
Kind of sounds familiar.
He does the same role, but it works with kind of C-suite, but the same deal, catering to their really high-end clients. And I didn't realize how important that is to kind of outsource the networking, if you will, to entertain these clients, to be sure that they're sticking with you.
We want them to know that we love them and value their partnership, and that's why we host these events. A lot of them are kind of formed around content, so we like to provide value. Like we'll have a speaker come in and deliver some sort of presentation on different topics that are relevant to them. But sometimes it's just for fun. Basically right now we're not doing too many of those, just with the way things are with budgets and whatnot. But like I said, most of our events are centered around content and knowledge sharing, just so that we're providing value to those clients.
Have you met Jimmy Downey?
I have, yes. He's very, very nice,
okay,
and not intimidating, actually.
I study him in the actions they've taken ever since the financial crisis. I did part of my research project for my PhD, and obviously he comes up there every his action speeches, etc. And he's a big, giant, intimidating factor in my mind. I'd love to meet him myself one time. I'm sure he's quite humble and interesting person. You mentioned your rotation. You said you did did the marketing first?
Yep,
Okay.
marketing strategist was my first.
Did you have the opportunity to, you said you could have chosen anything?
Actually, there's one caveat to that. The only role that we are not allowed to take at the firm is HR, and I think that's because you have information, or you have access to information you might not, you're not supposed to have until you're like in a permanent role at the bank. So that is the only role that you can't, or the only team that you can't join as part of the program. You can join after that if you wanted to. And I will say that actually is one of the nice things about our firm. They make it very easy to kind of move throughout the firm. So if you do a year in one role, and this is outside of the Pathways program, this is just like working at the firm. If you do a year in your current role and you like it but you want to explore something else, see what else is out there, they will basically make it very simple for you to kind of move around within the firm. And they do that because they want to retain talent, right? They want to keep the people that work for them. So they make it a little easier for you to explore what else is out there within the firm.
How difficult is it to enter that program? Is it an application process?
It is a pretty challenging program to get accepted to. I think right now there's two cohorts. There's like a spring cohort, a fall cohort. I think there's generally around like 30 to 40 people that they accept. And there is an application process that you submit. And then from there they do panel interviews. And really, I like to tell people that, because I speak to a lot of people who are interested in the Pathways program. At that point, it's really just a sanity check, right? If you get to the process where we're doing an interview with you, a panel interview, we really just want to make sure that you're the type of person that we want to work with, right? Because most people's resumes look the same, right? We all have similar backgrounds, we all have similar experiences. We just want to make sure that this person is a good fit for the firm, and I like to call it a vibe check. Can this person hold a conversation? Are they the type of person that we want representing the firm? And I think it's a wonderful program, and I think anybody here who's interested in finance or not, but working at JPMorgan, I would highly recommend it. The only caveat there is that you have to be within 3 years of getting out of the service. So if you've been out of the service longer than 3 years, you don't qualify, but there may be an exception if you're still serving in the reserves. Don't quote me on that one, but that is the one stipulation.
And is there a certain requirement or rank or capacity?
No, we have enlisted, we have officer, we've got every branch. I think we're a little Army heavy, and that's mainly because the program director is prior Army, so he knows a lot of people and tries to bring them in. So we meet people from other services as well, but yeah, we've got all walks of life.
Okay. A couple more questions about the types of jobs, but I'm going to switch to Aaron a little bit and let him compete a bit and let us know what kind of events management jobs you have at Wells Fargo.
Events management? Hold on, let me look at wellsfargojobs.com.
I'll be more curious about whether you have a similar program, what it's like for a transitioning military.
We have similar programs, like our apprenticeship programs. It's a 1 or 2 year apprenticeship program that's what's called through the DOL, okay? And honestly, like we have veterans that'll come in and they'll have 80% of the skills needed for the transition, okay? With the apprenticeships, the way they're developed, it's to get that experience, that knowledge to make those, that 20% gap, okay? While you're going through an apprenticeship program, you will be going through, you'll be having an hourly wage, which is very competitive. And at the 2 year time frame, we transfer into a full-time position. With that one, we also have the vet internship program, and those are usually specifically for veterans, and we usually bring on 35 to 45 individuals twice a year, okay? And they're usually mid to senior level, and it's primarily veterans, okay? For this 8-week time period, you are being paid, and we never say it's a guaranteed position, but at the end, there's a good probability there's going to be an FTE full-time offer at the end, okay? That's 2, and then we have the corporate fellowship program. You're still in the service. It's basically a skill bridge where we don't actually put you in a specific position. We put you in a fellowship. Okay, you do general rotations. You identify key positions that you want to pursue. You get a mentor, the networking part which she was talking about earlier, and then you have a recruiter. Our job is to coach you and try to figure out every single way to bring you on board in a regular FTE position.
I've got a list of probably 20 questions. I'm not going to get to them all. I think that given that ALVA supports not just transitioning individual vets who are fresh out of the military, we also support reservists who have careers of their own, mid-career professionals who are veterans that just happen to be wanting to transition, fresh. Are there opportunities specifically for veterans to help support that sort of transition, or some sort of something that can give us an advantage if we will?
For us, it's gap aid. Okay, while you're serving, you have that one-on-one. Remember I told you earlier we had 30 individuals dedicated in our program? Instead of us just telling you, hey, go to a website, apply, good luck, you actually have a one-on-one session with us, okay? Where we'll send you an email and say, hey, you know what? I want you to go to wellsfargojobs.com, identify 2 or 3 roles that you want to pursue, do not apply. Okay, send me your resume, and I'm going to give you some quick feedback, and I'm going to say, hey, you know what, let's go ahead and set up a one-on-one. I'm your coach. I'm biased. I want you to become a Wells Fargo teammate. So I'm going to tell you, hey, you know what, looking at your general qualifications, you need to adjust your resume to meet this. Okay, let's talk about this, this general skill set. Have you done this before? Yes, I have. Okay, we got to define it a little bit more because the way we look at resumes, we look at the minimum requirement. If it says 5 years of experience and on your resume we only see 4 years, we automatically have to EQ you. After we identify that you do meet the minimum qualifications, we start looking at the desired qualifications. This is what the hiring manager is looking for. So we'll coach you and say, hey, okay, tell me a little bit more about your experience. Well, I hate when people say that. I did textile. Okay, you did a lot more stuff. I saw you guys on the field. You on the field. I know what you did. Okay, you bring a lot to the table. Let's go ahead and define it in corporate terms. Project management. How many, or audit. Okay, I love using this for audit. How many of you looked at regulation, made sure the processes were in place, and found deficiencies? Anybody want to raise their hands? That's everybody in the military, okay? Okay, once you found those deficiencies, what do? You create controls, corrections, on-the-spot corrections. We have audit, okay, which is not just looking at numbers, looking over our processes, you can qualify for that. Or if not, control, making corrections to make sure we are in compliance with regulations. So veterans bring a lot of skill set to the table, they just don't know how to define it. So they have people like me, who's been in the industry for over 18 years, and say, hey, you know what? It can be a project manager, but it's not going to be a project manager. I think there would be a business execution consultant. And those are basically project managers. We have in every line of business. Based on your general skill set, I think you'd be a good fit for this. This is the reason why. So, and also for reservists, we have gap pay. We understand, I was deployed. I was in college going, hey, I'm going to get my degree, and all of a sudden I'm in Iraq for 15 months. And if I made a good salary back then, okay, I'd be struggling with P5 pay, all right? So at Wells Fargo, we want you to be successful. We want you to go over there and serve your country, do what you need to do, and we're going to make up the difference between your regular pay and your military pay, so you don't have to worry about paying those.
That's beautiful. And when I was deployed, I was an independent consultant, so my income from that instantly stopped, and took upon the Uncle Sam's income, which was good. But it worked. We made it through. And I also knew some of my friends who were deployed that had an income here and effectively doubled by taking out a deployed pay. So it's a great benefit.
But we all know the risk.
That's right.
Yeah.
And they're willing to do that for exactly that reason. The risk is there. That is a huge opportunity to have someone like yourself on the inside. I think we all, or at least know somebody who has the frustration of looking on LinkedIn, finding a position that looks perfect. You say, hey, great, I'm going to apply to it. After these 250 other applicants that just applied, I can see it on there and know it's going to be thrown into some system, probably discarded because the system doesn't know who I am. And unless you have somebody inside, like Aaron here, to help give you a foot in, it's almost impossible.
And we actually go a step forward further, okay? We advocate for you, okay? So let's say you had a one-on-one session with us, and you submit your resume, everything's good to go. We just don't say, hey, good luck, let me know when the recruiter reaches out to you. We actually say, hey, give me 3 bullet points on how your experience relates to this position. How is it quantifiable, okay? Once I get that information, I'll reach out to the recruiting team, let them know, hey, you know what, I have Johnny here, and this is a reason why Johnny feels is qualified. Also, this is a little bit more about their general experience. So I'm not, how do you say it, we're making sure you get a little bit more exposure, and the recruiters have a better defined understanding of what military members and veterans bring to the organization.
So an internal advocate, it makes good sense, because you want to hire the best people, and if you find something, you might as well be the advocate. That's great.
Yeah.
Danny, how are we looking on time there, sir? Good, okay. Kristen, you mentioned the various types of jobs, positions, maybe functions, if you will. I was wondering if you could elaborate a little bit more besides the ones that you participated in, maybe the ones that you thought were interesting, whether to ex-military personnel or just in general, and then perhaps expand upon others that are available outside of investment banking or data tele, as you might see from the outside of the only opportunities within banking.
Absolutely. Excuse me. You know, it's funny, most people, and I'm generalizing here, but this is just based on like the numbers that we see within the Pathways program, most of the folks who are prior military who are in the Pathways program will place out into or do a rotational role within the commercial bank. That's just where most of us end up, and I think it's just because, for a number of reasons. One, they've got pretty decent work-life balance, right? And after a life in the military, that's what most of us are looking for, is better work-life balance. You know, so the commercial bank has traditionally better work-life balance than, say, like the investment bank or asset and wealth management and things like that. So most of us end up in roles within the commercial bank, but a lot of us feel comfortable and gravitate towards jobs that are, you know, within operations or project management, because those are roles that we, you know, essentially did within the military, and it's totally fine. I mean, it makes sense, right? It's what they're good at, it's what they're comfortable doing, and I mean, I'm trying to think like how to narrow it down, because there really is just, it's overwhelming at times, right? Because the firm is just so big. I mean, JPMorgan, it's massive, right? And it can be a little overwhelming when you first start the rotation. You're like, where do I start? Like, what jobs am I interested in? What do I do? And they make it fairly easy for us. Like, they'll give us a list of people who are currently in the program across the bank, and they'll say, reach out to these people, chat with them, network like crazy, and from there, they're going to introduce you to other people. And that's pretty much how we start and figure out what we want to do. So I would say there are a lot of jobs right now, and a lot of us are finding interest in jobs related to cybersecurity. That's another one that's really interesting to a lot of folks, not just people who are prior military, but just in general, I think, especially just given everything that's going on in the world. Similar to that is anything related to fraud prevention. That's another one that people have a lot of interest in. I'm trying to think what else are like some of the other ones that I've had interest in. To be honest, when I was in my search for a role, most of the jobs that I was looking at, or most of the roles that I was looking at, were related to marketing, mainly because that's what I knew and that's what my degree was in. And then from there were similar roles, like there's, you know, roles in copywriting or content creation, email marketing, you know, anything that you can do related to marketing, we have it, obviously. Trying to think of what some of the other ones that are.
But a lot of my friends that left the Air Force ended up in IT, for instance.
Yep.
Well, that's pretty cool.
Yes, a lot of jobs in IT as well. To be honest, there are a lot of us that end up taking more traditional banker roles, and I think that's because they feel comfortable talking to people. At least a lot of the officers that I know who come through the program, you know, they were in the business of managing people, right? So they feel comfortable talking to people, and that's what they want to do at the bank. So they become a banker because they know they're going to be working one-on-one with clients of the firm, and they feel comfortable talking to them, and they have some sort of interest in money, I would think, and in finance. But it's kind of skewed. I mean, or not skewed, it's kind of across the board. People kind of just go in different areas. You would think that a lot of them would go straight to banking because we are a bank, but it's not always the case. And I think that's why it's kind of an interesting program, because like I said, you really can do whatever it is that you want. Yeah.
So if you were interested in coming from, say, the military or a background that's not necessarily directly related to banking, investment, or finance, are there opportunities to either gain the experience within your firms or to have certain skill sets that your organizations would look for that would be applicable to investment banking, wealth management, something along those lines?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the nice part about this program is that, and not even just this program, but I think as a veteran applying to the firm in general, I will say one of the nice things about JPMorgan is that they really value veteran service and the experience that they have as a military member, and they recognize that while we may not have the traditional experience that you get from working in the civilian sector, you're getting those other skills that are absolutely applicable to really any job that you can have in the civilian world. So if they see value in that, they recognize like, hey, this is the type of person that we want at our firm, but they may not necessarily have experience in, you know, specifically X, Y, or Z, they'll bring them on board and they're going to train them. So, you know, obviously there's different certifications that you can get and things like that, and every team is different, right? So every team operates differently. So certain teams may onboard people one way, and another team's going to have a more strenuous onboarding process with all sorts of training and things like that. I think it really just depends on the team that you're on. For the Pathways program specifically, I think it's kind of nice because you almost get a pass, right? Like everybody knows why you're there. They know that you have most likely have like zero experience in the role that you're sitting in. They don't expect much from you, but they know that you're a fast learner. They know that you're motivated. So they're going to take the time to, explain to you how things work. They're going to give you the tools that you need in order to learn that role. And they wouldn't do that if they didn't see the value in you, right? Because otherwise it would be a waste of money and it would be a waste of their time. But they see the value and they know that, ultimately you're going to be the type of person that they want at the firm and a valuable member of the team. So while it can be overwhelming at times, because they're kind of just like throwing you into the fire and you're drinking from the fire hose, just to throw a couple cliches in there, they really are providing you with the tools that you need in order to be successful. And I really appreciated that because, coming from the military, not having a background in marketing other than my master's, I had no idea what I was doing, but I knew that I could pick it up pretty quickly. And I, found somebody that was willing to teach me, and I picked it up pretty quickly. And I think everybody else is kind of in the same position. Like they all have that drive and that desire to learn. And so no matter what you throw at them, they're going to pick it up pretty quick. And I've never met anybody in the Pathways program or heard of somebody in the Pathways program who wasn't successful in the role that they placed out into because, like I said, the firm wants you to succeed, so they're going to provide you with the tools that you need to do so.
Aaron, how about the Wells Fargo's similar opportunities?
There are very similar opportunities out there. Let's say, and mind you, with Wells Fargo, we have, fun fact, you know how many employees Wells Fargo has?
You're right.
Okay.
30,000.
We are bigger than the Marine Corps. Okay, we have over 200,000 employees. JPMorgan Chase also has over 200,000 employees. Okay, so there are tons of opportunities within Wells Fargo. Everywhere from the branch positions where you'll be a teller, personal branch manager, and those can be located across the nation. Okay, then you can all go into enterprise or general operations opportunities where it can be audit, control, investment banking, technology. Okay, you mentioned technology. With Wells Fargo, we have more technology employees than most technology companies do. Okay, and of course, within Wells Fargo, let's say you're a veteran and you get hired on, you have opportunities to join our employee resource network. Okay, where's Mr. Bettis? I was gonna. Well, he's one of the leaders. Okay, so you still have that network, that one-on-one, that the things that you left behind when you get in the military. Okay, so you have that support system.
I want to leave it open to questions. If anybody has specific questions for either of these, yeah.
I'm thinking about veterans who I know who have a high school education, in the service to do whatever, who would even resist the idea that organizations like yours would seriously interview them for these positions. What would you tell them? Because you have a master's degree, I have a master's degree, and we made these great transitions, and we have this potential that can open doors for us as we age. A little more for credentials, right? You have to be either going to Silicon Valley, you gotta have something, right? And know what you do. But I'm thinking about these guys who,
This is better. How would you encourage, what could we say to them to take seriously in opportunities such as you have described? Because they have these little walls they put up, right? How could I encourage them?
Okay, honestly, it's what do they want to do long term? Okay, what is their goal? All right, is it trying to get their foot in the door and trying to go to college? Branch general opportunities would be a great route to go. Also, when you're talking to them, tell them, define what their skill sets are and their next level career path. Where do you want to go in your next step? So we have opportunities for all, again, we have over 200,000 employees. There's going to be an opportunity for an individual, but we've got to find the position that they're interested in and have desire for.
Yeah, and just speaking more generally, you were saying how do we kind of like boost their confidence a little bit and let them know like companies like JPMorgan or Wells Fargo, like they are in need of and looking for people like you, right? And I've come across people like this, that I've had conversations with them, and I even thought the same thing myself, right? Like, why would I, be appealing to a bank that has, some of the smartest people working here, have tons of experience, whatever it is. Whether or not they make it into this program, I always encourage people to apply just to the bank in general, especially as a veteran. And I can't speak to other companies, but I know for my own company, JPMorgan highly, highly values the service or the time that veterans, served in the military. And again, it's because they know that they're getting a quality person, right? They're getting somebody who's disciplined, who's motivated, who is a fast learner, who, for the most part, has people skills, right? And hold an intelligent conversation, and is going to be a great person to represent the firm. And really, it's about boosting that confidence and saying, like, you may not think that you have a lot to offer because you don't have the experience that, comes with someone who did, 10 years in the civilian world, but you have so much more to offer than you realize. And you may have been, a helo pilot, and obviously that's not what you're going to do when you go to JPMorgan, or maybe it is, right? But more than likely it's not. But you have those other skills that they are in desperate need of and that they highly, highly value that you may not necessarily get from somebody who doesn't have the same background that you do. So really it's just a matter of saying, like, go for it and highlight those skills that they, are looking for, and just play that up rather than, focusing on what you don't have.
Being able to introduce them to someone like you who is a veteran, I think would transcend all that. So hopefully we'll get to know each other and exchange info and stuff, because I always want to make that handoff instead of like, believe me, they'll talk to you. So I think that the roles that you have are absolutely critical for our community to have to even take the opportunity seriously. So thank you.
Also, to go on our side with Wells Fargo, if you look at the jobs that are posted, over 90% of our positions do not require a bachelor's degree. Okay, most of the positions open on desired, or if not, most of the positions open on desired, but not necessarily under required. So we value the skill sets. Okay, but if you're talking to somebody barely out of the service, have them define what skills they bring. Okay, we can only do so much.
I'd like to add to this, please.
Please.
So, it's a great point that you bring up about qualifications, especially education. But you on the soldier program, Wells Fargo apprenticeship, I will tell you that there's a lot of young transitioning members, both enlisted and officers, who need to understand that apprenticeship program is a program that's out there that's going to make a difference for them if they, one, don't know what they want to do, and two, don't have that skill set or even that education level. You go on apprenticeship.gov and it just says for veterans, start there. I will tell you, I was with the apprenticeship program, now I'm with a different federal agency. Where apprenticeship is at today is, it is a competitor, not a challenger, but a competitor to a 4-year degree. And what you can get from apprenticeship is it's unmatched right now. And for a lot of our transitioning service members who only have an associate's degree or who only have a high school diploma and only have that first enlistment or just a couple years, they don't know, I would recommend them start at apprenticeship.gov, because that is just, it's a great value. I was at the Office of Apprenticeship when Wells Fargo apprenticeship program got signed, and I think that was one of the biggest steps that the entire finance industry did, and I hope others are following your lead.
And we're growing, and we are growing. The apprenticeship program is growing with us.
Apprenticeships in general are undervalued, and I think it's something that we need to be better at promoting across the country. Any other questions specific for these two? Also, I really love that last question, Graciela, and thank you for your contribution, all of you, to that. As a reservist, I was lucky enough to have a civilian career while I was enlisted with these other enlistees who were active duty full time, and they were looking to get out, and they were down on themselves because they thought, I have no skills for the real world. What can I possibly do? And I would look at them and say, man, I sat next to you when we were undergoing fire. You have skills that no one else has out there. You're calm under pressure like no other. How you put that on the resume, there are ways to do it, but employers see this. They see who you are. They see soft skills that you have that no one else has out in this anymore. So it's a lot to offer for sure. And I'm glad to see that both of your companies are looking at that, noticing and taking up some of our full service men and women. Thank you for that. Then we'll just websites for job apps or the Pathways program.
For the Pathways program. So they're actually going to be, I think it should be in the next couple of weeks, they're going to be launching the next application process for the spring cohort. I want to say at the end of November. They haven't given us an official date yet, but typically they will post it on LinkedIn, and then everybody who's in the Pathways program will repost it. So if you're interested, find me on LinkedIn and just follow me on there, and then as soon as they post that job opportunity, I will repost it, and then you can go ahead and apply that way.
Kristen Sullivan, and the official name of the program is the Military Pathways Program.
The Military Pathways Rotational Program. We also have a direct hire program, which I didn't get into, and a budding spouses program. So if you're interested in either or hearing more about those, find me on LinkedIn and I'll chat with you about that.
Very cool. Okay.
And for us, it's wellsfargojobs.com, okay? But if you want to get connected with one of the military talent liaisons, email us at militaryrecruiting@wellsfargo.com. Again, 2 positions that catch your interest and your resume, and you should get response within 48 hours.
Military recruiting at wellsfargo.com. Okay. Listen.
And then Aaron?
Oh, and I'm going to be over there if you have any questions.
Okay. And I suppose at least Aaron will be hanging around, perhaps Kristen. And,
I have to go to the airport, but
okay.
please, if you are interested, find me on LinkedIn and I'd be happy to set up some time to chat with you.
Thank you all for spending time. You have a quick question? We've got to wrap up.
Yeah, just one quick question. LinkedIn has been mentioned a few times. Is that the go-to platform that you would tell veterans that are transitioning to go to as a social media method to reach out?
For LinkedIn?
Correct.
Yes. Okay, when I had my recruitment firm, all right, that's where I found, okay, when you're looking at individuals, there's different ways to find them depending on the general industry and the general level, okay? Usually entry-level general positions, you don't find them on job boards like Indeed, Career Builder maybe, but more likely Indeed or ZipRecruit. For high professionals at a certain level, they don't post their resumes, okay? We have to headhunt. We hunt them with LinkedIn. And the way we do it is we do Google searches based on specific skills and what we're looking for, okay? So when I was looking for a civil engineer, there's tons of different forms of engineers. But then I started breaking down, look at land development, also PE, SE, and then I would reach out directly on LinkedIn and say, hey, I'm Aaron, are you interested in a new opportunity? Absolutely amazing. So LinkedIn is very, very important to have up to date.
Thank you very much for being here. We appreciate your contribution, your service especially, and for your efforts in helping to support our community as you continue into your civilian work. So thank you very much.
Super interesting conversation, wasn't it? Lots of valuable information. We're going to go ahead and take a break right now. Let's regroup at about 3:30 for our next panel. There's lots of food and drinks outside, so enjoy.
Oh, somebody outside, like,